we strongly believe that behavior management can make organizations run way smoother, way safer, and way much more fun.
Yeah.
So,
thanks for the introduction. And one of the great things to know that there is, first of all, there is a scientific way to improve behavior in the workplace, and Robert has gone through a very long journey in this specific knowledge and specific application. And I'm really impressed, to be honest, looking at his books. And he's not alone. He has a team with him, and I've become part of that team as well. So we are working together, and we want to make sure that we take this towards the next level. I think most of you in this session know me. My name is Amado Brinkman. I'm a founder and senior consultant of Technic Works, and I've been working in management consultancy, specifically in the HSEQ, yeah, which is health, safety, environment, and quality era, in different industries, mainly in petrochemical logistics, but also manufacturing and some other industries. And my journey really, was that we had some. I mean, while applying occupational health and safety, we really found that it was many times quite difficult to change behavior, or to encounter or to help people, or to help organizations to change the behavior or the culture in general of organizations. And we have done several trainings in different types of behavioral change, or we were calling it those days more like behavior-based safety, which is called the BBS, right? While we were in the region in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia, while working with my colleague here, Adnan, we tried to utilize the Dow Chemical way of implementing behavior-based safety, and we faced quite some challenges with implementing this. And when I met Robert and his colleague Joost, actually through Warner, who was here as well, so that is the whole party is. I mean, all the old friends are here together. I got really excited, and I said, "This is really something that we need to explore, and that I need to learn more about." And that's actually the story that we're going to narrate to you. This presentation today will be just a small introduction to this program, or to this system, you can say. We will just help you to understand the basic principles. But of course, if you want to know more about this, you would need some additional time. And I would say that maybe in the coming months, which is in January, February, and then after the Ramadan, which is with regards to the region, but in the Netherlands, in the beginning of February, we will have also a session coming up. And then in April, we'll be in the UAE to continue this journey together. Now, first of all, while starting, and this is just still an introduction towards the subject, and then I will give the word to Robert. But first, before we start, there is something that we need to consider. And this is a beautiful saying, or a beautiful statement from the guru of organizational behavior management, Aubrey C. Daniels, who said, "You don't want to be safe by accident." Not by accident, you want to learn how to be safe. Actually, you want to do something before that. And in order to do that introduction, we have a small video. We get into that, and then we'll take it to the next part.
And click play. Yeah.
Yes, and this is of course Napo. I think most of you already know him or know these videos, and this is definitely an indication about what unsafe behavior can actually cause in an organization. So this was just an example so that we can get into the material, so we can get into the presentation. So let's get into it. Before we start, I would like you to take your mobile phone, or you could also join at slido.com and put this number in. If you take your mobile phone and you screen or you screen the QR code, we would like you to answer the question, what is for you safe behavior? Your support is appreciated. Now, this will be a word cloud, so we're looking forward to seeing your participation. I will give you a little bit of time, like 30 seconds, so that we understand from the audience what they see as safe behavior. Oh, these are sentences. Being open and constructively communicative, protecting yourself, being aware of risks, perception of compliance, and also stopping the non-compliance. Okay, great. Anything more? You can add several statements. So it's not only one time. You can do, if you want, of course. I still see a few of our attendees writing. I think it's stopped more or less now. Robert, I think you would like to take one of these statements and maybe elaborate a little bit on it, maybe being open and constructively communicative?
Yeah.
Or would you like to talk about being aware of risks? Or
Yeah. Well, these are all nice examples and very commonly given answers to the question, what kind of behavior do you wish to see? In this case, we check if what kind of safe behaviors you want to see. And one of the issues that we have here is that none of these description actually is a behavior. So if I would ask somebody to demonstrate what safe from the heart, what that actually looks like on the shop floor, what is it then that we see? Or if you say being open and constructively communicative, what is it that it looks like? Can you demonstrate it with a single action? How safe, how you be safe from the heart, or how you think before you act. So those descriptions are what we are looking for, but they are not yet very well pinpointed behavioral descriptions. And one of the problems with that is that if you talk to the people that you lead and you tell them to be safe from the heart, then they usually would end up with a question like, what do you mean with that? Or what does it mean to be open and constructive? Or what does it mean to be aware of risks? Of course, it's something that we look for, but it's a leadership skill that you translate these perfectly phrased descriptions into actionable behaviors. So something that you can do or say in order to increase safety. So if you would have a coaching session about those behavioral descriptions, then we would like to see, okay, what is it that people do in order to be safe from the heart, or in order to protect themselves, or in order to be more aware of risks? What is it that you want them to do more often? And once that you have that, then we can look at, okay, and if we do those behaviors more often, what will improve for the organization? So will we be more productive or more compliant or faster? I don't know.
Mm.
So there has to be a cause-effect relationship between the behaviors that you look for and the results that will be delivered from those behaviors. And that's a leadership skill, and it's not that hard to learn, but it's something that we need to talk about.
yeah,
All right, so organizational change, it's a very complex subject, and one of the things that complicates stuff is that change initiatives usually are very big. They want to change the entire culture, or they want to create more engagement across the board, or they want to, I don't know, put the customer at the center, be more customer focused. And those are very generic terms. And people usually agree with those descriptions, but they don't know what to change. So we have a solution for that, and that is what we like to show you here. So just click away, Amador. Okay, yeah, hold it right there. So any organization that is in the world and has a reason for existence, they exist simply because they serve markets. Markets could be individual persons that need stuff, that could be business to business, it could be business to government. And each market has the same two attributes that they need something and they are usually willing to pay for it. So once they are, that you realize that you are in the market, let's say that you are in the market for a training, then you look at what kind of training do I need and how much am I willing to pay for it. And once you have addressed that, then you will scan all your options. So you look for providing organizations that can fulfill your need. If you are in the needs for groceries, or you're on the need for a holiday, or you want to travel, or you need a new car, then the need and the money will probably change in the amount. And then you look for providers that can fulfill those needs.
Yeah.
And providing organizations usually are about people and capabilities and activities, and those are all organized. And usually, if you want to increase your capability of managing outcome and results, then organizations usually organize those activities that you do in very specific processes, or sometimes referred to as value streams. And value streams are basically a collection of activities. And those activities transform input to output. Just like this, input to output. And of course, you want to manage those processes. So you want to organize all kinds of feedback, feedback on the output, but also feedback. Even wachten, Amador, eentje terug. Yeah, perfect. So feedback on the output that you have produced in your process. You want feedback maybe in terms of goal attainment, and you want feedback on the activities. How well are we doing those? And if you manage your processes, you usually use something that is referred to like performance indicators, or even key performance indicators, or stuff like that. And those indicators tell you how well an activity is performed and how close you are to your targets. So, and if you look at the process, you will usually find that a lot of activities in those processes are executed well. And usually there's only one or two activities that are performed not so well. And those activities become the bottleneck in your process. And that means that if you want to address behavioral change, you want to solve an organizational problem. And an organizational problem is usually when you don't meet goals or objectives, or if people skip activities in order to gain time, or to be just find it easier ways to do things. And those activities that are being skipped, even wachten, ja, dankjewel. Those activities that are being skipped, those are the activities that create the problems in your organization. And if you want to address them, then you have to realize that the problem that you're running into is not a knowledge problem. Mag ik nu de volgende slide? Ja, klik er maar door. So each step in eentje terug. Each step in a process is considered to be a small piece of performance. And the performance is defined as a behavior producing a result in a very given context. So the activities that go well, you could say people emit the right behaviors. If an activity is skipped or not correctly executed, then you either get undesired results and you have undesired behavior. And if we look at why does that happen, then you will find that those activities not performed well is not because they don't know what they should be doing. It's not that the rules are not clear. It's not that the tools are not working. In most cases, people make a choice. They choose to behave differently from what you might expect. And that makes behavioral issues and performance issues motivational issues. And that means that you have to understand why they make this choice. And if you don't understand why they make this choice, any intervention that you might come up with is most likely not to be effective. And I'd like to zoom in a little bit on this performance concept. So maybe the next slide where you show it. So it's about behavior producing results in a very specific organizational context. And each step in the process looks like this. You have to do something, you have to process, for instance, some information to produce a result, like a record or a document. And that document is then handed over to the next step in the process. Or the information is handed over in the next step in the process where it will be acted upon. So each process step is basically a small piece of performance. If you have performance issues, you always have behavioral issues. So if you want to help people improve in their work, there's two things that you have to make absolutely clear for these people. You have to talk about very clearly about results that you want, and you have to define the behavior that produces these results, and you look for a cause-effect relationship. So if you can, as you see in this picture, the behavior produces the result. That means that if you modify the behavior, you will get different results. And if you stop the behavior, the results are no longer produced. So if you want to improve performance, improve safety, improve compliance, you have to zoom in to exactly the problem area where specific behaviors are executed wrongly, which creates all kinds of management issues. And that consumes a lot of money, that consumes a lot of time and energy from management, and they basically should be doing different things than trying to solve these problems.
Yeah. Getting to the hook of safety performance, and specifically for the safety specialists and experts amongst us, they know that there has been in the early 1900s the theory of Heinrich, which is called the 88, 10, and 2 theory. And actually, this theory talked about that almost 88%, and a lot of times we say 90% of accidents that happen in organizations are due to unsafe acts. In other words, unsafe behavior, right? So, and organizations and also safety specialists and safety experts, they have been utilizing this theory for a very long time. Until another gentleman, and these are just two thought schools, right? Another gentleman whose name is Edward Deming came and he said, actually, it is not 88 people, their behavior. Why? Because it looks like the blame is that people performing in their organizations, they are the ones who are causing accidents. And blaming people for doing these accidents is incorrect. As a matter of fact, it are the systems. It are what? The systems that are causing these issues. And it's only 6%, around about 6% of incidents that are happening, which are due to behavioral issues. But if you zoom in, first of all, you understand that incidents and accidents are caused, or there is a big chunk of them are literally caused by behavior. And whether you follow the theory of Heinrich or Deming, or you make a combination of it, that is definitely a significant part of organizational performance that causes, in our context, incidents, which is due to behavior. And if you look to the second part where it says, but actually it's not behavioral, these are not behavioral issues, but these are system failures, then we'll say, okay, but who makes those systems? Who implements those systems? Who embeds those systems? Who pays the money for those systems? Then we would say, hey, but these systems, they are embedded and implemented by leadership. So then we also have another behavioral aspect in this context. So with this, we see that having a technique or having a program or having a system to positively reinforce behavior and to ensure that there is a way or a technique to improve the safety culture is definitely something very important to reduce accidents. And that's why for me and for a lot of people with me, it's very, very important to have that system and not have fragmentized systems that are partially solving the problem, but not solving the problem completely. And that made me and so many others with me really fascinated with OBM, because OBM actually, it is best practice for behavioral change. And the issue here is that it is not based on, what, for example, Robert or Joost or one of the other colleagues was thinking. It is actually based on a system that's for already for many, many years old. And OBM has originally, it's based on applied behavioral analysis. So it is not something that was made from let's say safety experts or people that are actually applying behavioral change in organizations. No, it literally started with applied behavioral analysis and experimental analysis of behavior. They were addressing real world challenges, and they, at a moment in time, they came into something which is more specified, and that is organizational behavior management, and that focuses literally on behavior change or behavior management in organizations. So it's really specific, and it helps. And Robert has already explained something about it, and we are going to take it to the next part of the presentation.
You want me to take over?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, okay. So one of the key components in the behavioral change world is the so-called ABC model. Just please click in so that we can see the entire model, please. Yeah, thanks. So what we see here is that the ABC model is comprised of three components. A, B, and C. A stands for antecedent, B stands for behavior, and C stands for consequence. And if you put it in a timeline and you would put behavior in the center of the timeline, then antecedents come before the behavior and consequences are the result of behavior. So they follow behavior. And if we look at how organizations try to modify behavior, they usually focus on those antecedents. And what are antecedents? If you put it very simply, anything in your environment that you could interact with, or look at, or work with, or talk to, could be an antecedent. And the function of an antecedent is to trigger behavior. but antecedents never cause behavior. That's one step that you have to make in order to understand how it actually works. So antecedents may trigger a behavior. For instance, if your phone rings right now, that ringing sound of the phone is technically an antecedent, and it urges you to answer the phone. So the behavior would be that you pick up your phone and swipe it until you can start the conversation. But there are many situations in which you will not pick up your phone. So even if it rings the same ringtone, you ignore the ringtone and maybe you press another button in order to silence the call. So antecedents trigger behavior but never cause it. In a working environment, antecedents are very much, how do you say, abundantly around. So for instance, rules and procedures, knowledge, tools, instructions, behavior of other people, these are all antecedents. But no matter what the rule is, it will never cause a behavior. On the other hand, once you do have interaction with your environment, so either you talk to somebody or you interact with your environment using your body, that action will have very specific effects. And those effects will only appear if you do a very specific behavior. So the consequences or effects are depending on the behavior. If the behavior stops, the consequences no longer occur. If you increase the behavior, consequences come up more often. And science is very clear that if you look at the data and the analysis of all these data and experiments, then you will see that behavior is produced by an individual because of the consequences. So if we go back to the telephone again, if it rings, then you might want to pick it up, depending on who calls. But if I ask you, why do you press the button or why do you swipe across the screen in order to pick up the call, your answer will be, because I want to talk to the person who's calling me. So the answer is, I want to do this because of, and then you basically point at the consequence that you're looking for. And science is very clear about it. Behavior is governed by its effect on the environment and on the individual. So what happens to you if you do something? And this lesson is very important because it helps you to understand why people do what they do. Excuse me. So if you have interaction with your environment, ja, ga maar door, is goed.
Ja.
If you have interaction with your environment, you have basically 4 types of consequences, 4 types of effects that you can have. And the first effect is that you get something that you want. So, for instance, you press buttons on your keyboard and the text that you want appears on the screen. You dial a number on your phone and you get in contact with the person that you wish to speak with. Or you click on your computer and you have actually booked a holiday, or I don't know. You go to the shop and you buy something, so you get what you want. So the behavior is governed by, in this case, trying to get what you want. Sometimes you do something and you don't get what you want, but you get something you don't want. And basically that your behavior has an unwanted or undesired effect. You get something that you don't want. So either you get something you want or you get something you don't want. Then there's 2 more options that you can run into in your interaction with your environment. One is that you try to escape or avoid stuff you don't like. For instance, let's say that it's raining outside and you close the window of your house or of your room that you're in or in the office that you're in. And I ask you, why did you close the room? And then, or did you close the window? And then you say, yeah, I tried to avoid rain from pouring into the room. So we call that escape behavior. If you park your car on the parking lot, you probably lock it. If I ask you, why do you lock your car? Then you say, yeah, I try to prevent people from stealing my car or stealing items from my car. So it's escape behavior, avoidance behavior, where you do something to avoid unwanted effects. And the last one is that you do something and that makes you lose something that you have and value. For instance, if you're speeding and a policeman catches you speeding, then you will probably get a fine. The fine or the ticket that you get makes you lose money. And usually people that are speeding usually want to be at a certain destination on time. Once you're stopped by the policeman, getting at your destination in time becomes basically illogical or impossible. So you don't get what you want as well. So those are the 4 effects that you can run into if you have interaction with your environment. And please note there's 2 green arrows and 2 red arrows. We come back to that later. Can you please show the emotions that will follow the behavior? Yeah, thanks. So if you get what you want, you usually feel happy or satisfied or complete or at least a positive emotion. So note that the effect of your behavior has an impact on your mental state, on the way that you feel, how you feel. Getting what you want makes you happy. If you escape from things that you don't want, you are relieved or glad that the unwanted didn't occur. If you get something that you don't want, you usually get a little bit of angry or annoyed or irritated, or at least it's a negative emotion. And if you lose something that you actually have and value and you didn't get what you want, you feel frustrated, angry, sad, and disappointed. So please note that your interaction with your environment has impact on how you feel. And science, again, is very clear that people like to be happy, and happy people perform better. So if you create an environment in which people can work, and while they are at work, they most of the time get what they want, you have happy employees. This knowledge is basically the basis for how we can use this model, and so we can have certain interventions or strategies. Can you show the strategies, please? So if you are a leader of a team or a manager of a department or whatever it is, or you are a parent trying to raise a child, or you own a dog and you want to try to train the dog, but because people and dogs learn in the same way, then you have to make sure that interaction delivers something that the performer wants. And if you give the performer something that they want, then you will see that this behavior will increase. And increasing of behavior because of the effect, that mechanism is called reinforcement. And even more precisely, positive reinforcement. So positive reinforcement is a situation wherein a performer gets something that they really want, they feel happy about it, and therefore want to do this behavior again. So if you are, as a leader, capable of delivering positive reinforcement, then you will strengthen behavior and you get more of the behavior that you're looking for. Negative reinforcement, on the other hand, is a little bit more tricky to apply, at least to apply correctly. But basically, negative reinforcement works with fear. So if you create a situation of fear, then people will respond to that to avoid any kind of unwanted situation. So they become fearful and do exactly as you tell them. Because if they don't, they are in trouble. So basically, negative reinforcement works by the paradigm of do it or else. And everything after the else is problematic. So you create a situation where people do things because they have to. And if they don't do it, they are in trouble. And that's one way of increasing behavior, but it's a very high price strategy. You will pay a very high price for it because you will lose motivation, you will lose employee engagement, you will lose performance, you will lose anything that you look for in an employee. On the other hand, if a behavior has to stop, you might apply punishment, either positive or negative punishment. And positive punishment basically gives the performer something they don't want, and negative punishment, they lose something that they have and like. And those strategies, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive and negative punishment, are instruments for leaders to modify behavior. And that has to be very, very, very specific. So on a very specific behavior, you have to reward it with positive reinforcement. Or if it's a problem behavior, you have to punish it positively or negatively in order to stop the behavior. And even if you never heard about this, and you maybe even don't like what you see here, this is how the behavior works. So if you see a behavior in any organization, you must assume that the behavior is there because it is positively reinforced. If certain behaviors you want to see, but you never see them, you must assume that doing the behavior that you look for is usually punished for the performer, and therefore they don't want to do it. So they become creative and try to find other ways in order to get done what must be done. So those 4 consequences are basically 4 instruments where you either can strengthen behavior or you can stop behavior. Can you show that please in the slide, Amador?
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
So getting what you want or escaping, those behaviors are reinforced, meaning made stronger, and that is the behavior that you see. If there's behavior that you want to see but you don't see it, you must assume there's some form of punishment going on. And this punishment is usually the effect that people perceive when they have interaction with their environment. Simple example, and I've been hearing about the hierarchy of control that you can have, and I go to the lowest level of control here. So, for instance, putting on the bump cap. Let's say that you are a very fashionable person and you like the way your hair is done, and you put on your bump cap and it's warm and sweaty. Your hair gets messed up. So wearing the bump cap, putting on the bump cap, and wearing it all day long makes your coop go crazy. And that's not something you like. So putting on the bump cap presents for you as a performer the effect that you get something that you don't want. It's clumsy, it's not nice, it's sweaty, it's warm, it's all stuff that you don't want. So what is it that you will do? You will decrease the behavior of putting on the bump cap, unless somebody is around and says, you have to wear the bump cap or else you are in problems. So then this person creates a situation of negative reinforcement where they force you basically to wear the bump cap. And examples show that as soon as this person leaves the room, the bump cap is removed. And of course, not wearing the bump cap in certain environments could lead to injury. And then once you have this injury, you have to research why did this injury occur, and why didn't he wear the bump cap? Was the rule not clear? And so on and so on. And basically, you have to learn that wearing the bump cap is punishing for a person that doesn't want to wear it. So that explains why they take it off if you don't check on them. So all these behaviors that you see in organizations are trained behavior, and the training mechanism is called positive reinforcement. That's for now what I'd like to share on this subject.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that does make any sense to the people listening in. Is there
Maybe
somebody who would like to reply to this?
what I suggest is that we finalize the slides and then give an opportunity to people
All right.
for asking questions, because otherwise, yeah, we will, since we are with a small group, I think it will be okay if you can do two things. Of course, you can send your question in the chat. You can do that from now on. And otherwise, we will allow you to open your microphone and ask a question, even camera, microphone, and so that we reply to you. But this goes deep, and understanding these principles and understanding this model is for some it might be logical, for others it might be a little bit difficult just to get into understanding how this exactly works. But the main thing is that OBM does not say that there are no rules, that rules are not important. So rules are still going to be there, right? So in order to organize things, we need rules. But following the rules in general, I mean, if we have rules, it will increase success, right? So having rules, ensuring that an organization is built on certain agreements is definitely important. And Robert already talked about high industrial or high risk industries where if you don't have no rules, then it would be definitely a difficult situation. The thing that the model tells you, and this specific the ABC model, is that not because there are rules, people are going to follow these rules by default. And that's what we've seen in the ABC model, right? So rules are antecedents. So rules are coming before behavior. And not because there are rules, people are going to follow these rules. And as a matter of fact, there are several occasions where people actually don't want to follow the rules, or they fall in the fault of violating the rules. So there is uh, you know a clear relation between rules and organizing an organization, but also improvement of encouraging or reinforcing behavior in organizations. And this is all based on leadership, and leadership, trust and respect. So making sure that if you want to improve behavior, if you want to ensure that positive reinforcement, R plus is being applied in an organization, it's important that there is a consistent, a consistency between what you do and whatever you communicate, and that you make sure as a leader that this literally happens. Because if you, for example, as a leader, as a maybe manager or supervisor, if you utilize antecedents and then you're breaking promises, then the respect that or the trust that is between you and the people that you're leading is then going to be damaged. Robert, do you want to add something on this particular slide?
No, I think you explained pretty well. So the rule by itself is antecedent in our model, in our ABC model, and all leaders are looking for respect and trust within their team, and that team members trust leadership. And the easiest way to do that is to make sure that you don't make any promises that you cannot keep. So if you're promising A, make sure that A will actually be delivered or come through. And leaders that break their promises because of, I don't know, whatever reason, usually lose respect quite quickly, and they have trouble rebuilding that respect. So
Yeah.
respect follows trust, and if I don't trust you, I will not work together with you. I will not do as you say, because you never know what's behind it.
Yeah. So summarizing this would be that there are like three pitfalls in behavior change, right? So pitfall number one is too much focus on the antecedent, too much focusing on what actually triggers behavior, what is in front of behavior. Like, unfortunately, in a lot of industries, and I think the industries that I've worked in and I'm still working in, they really focus a lot on antecedents, like a lot of procedures, policies, rules, training, etc., etc. So whenever there is, when we want to improve something, a lot of times we just say, put him on another training, give him another procedure, teach him the procedure again, rewrite the procedure, etc. Um, any thoughts on this, Robert?
Yeah, that's the if you see the way that they approach it, then there's a strong focus on antecedents and some focus on consequences. So that's the 80-20% ratio.
Yeah,
So most of the energy is on the antecedents, like rules and procedures and training, and very little focus is on the consequences,
yeah. And then
like an
pitfall,
80-20 ratio, like Pareto.
yeah. And then pitfall number two is overuse of negative C. So overuse of the negative consequences. So as you've seen in the model, like maybe punishing people or reprimanding people, and not putting more focus on positive reinforcement, which is R plus.
Yeah, and again, here's the negative of the 80-20% ratio. So there are some leaders that do deliver some form of positive reinforcement, like a compliment or positive attention. But most of the time, they focus on things that go wrong, and then they respond with it with don't do this again, or you will be in trouble. That would be negative reinforcement. Or they simply punish them in some way, verbally or maybe even physically, or by working with fines or extra hours that you have to work. I don't know. So they overuse those consequences in
Yeah,
order to change behavior. And that will always backfire if you do that.
yeah. And then the last pitfall that a lot of organizations or managers maybe or leaders in organizations fall in is really a focus on material C, like giving rewards, giving materialistic type of consequences for the results that people are delivering. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And what we do want is not so much as material consequences for the results, but we want to focus on the behavior, and we want to reinforce that with, for instance, positive attention. So again, here's the 80-20 ratio.
yeah,
Sometimes they do it correctly, but most of the time they focus on monetizing results.
yeah. Yeah, so I think this is a very good lesson for all of us, understanding that there are pitfalls in improving behavior at organizations. Too much focus on antecedents is a pitfall. Overusing of negative consequences can definitely create the opposite effect of what we're looking for. And then also the only focus or mainly focusing on the material C for results is definitely one of those areas that organizations need to look out for. As a question, how do you think, Robert, that people then, I mean, what should they then focus on in order to make sure that that this model is will be working for them?
Yeah. So you have to focus on positive reinforcement. So that's key. And what positive reinforcement is that you give the people that do well, and basically in this context, emit safe behavior, that you will catch them in the act of being safe, and then just give them some attention for their effort. So it's about catching people in the act of doing something correctly, and then simply praise them a little bit. Give them a compliment, give them some attention, give them the thumbs up, or any signal that demonstrates that you have seen it and that you appreciate it. So it's about appreciation. So I think that most of the time, people that go to work, they spend 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day on the job. And of course, they get paid for it, but they also want something else in return for their effort. And that effort needs to be rewarded with attention and support and recognition for their effort, specifically when they do things right. So in many organizations, you will only see management when there is an issue, when there is a problem that needs to be corrected. Then they leave the management boardroom and they are on the shop floor and they start pointing around and who's to blame, and then it needs to be fixed and we never want to see the problem again. So that's usually not what we're looking for. Basically, what we're looking for is leaders that try to catch people in the act of doing something correctly, and leaders that are willing to change the environment in which people work so that they increase the probability that people do the right things.
Mm.
So they have positive reinforcement from their interaction with their working environment.
Okay, I wanted to continue with the Q&A, and then later on we do the survey, if you are okay. So in order to also to engage the audience, so one of the questions, and I will try to start with asking a few questions, and then we give also an opportunity to the audience. I think I see one question in the, I see one question. So we take the first question from the board, and then we take one question from the chat. So the first question is, do more rules, procedures, and policies lead to a better safety culture?
Well, rules, of course, are antecedents. Procedures and policies are also antecedents, and they try to set the contingency for correct performance. But because behavior is not guided by the rules, it's guided by the effect. So more policies, more procedures, and more policies do not lead to better safety culture.
Yeah.
Simply because they are antecedents. And on the other hand, all behaviors have antecedents. So you need rules, you need procedures, you need policies, but having them is not the solution to all behavioral issues.
So understanding the ABC model is king to really understand those steps. You will understand better how behavior is triggered.
Yes.
I get a question from Warner. It is in a private message. Do you allow me, Warner, to read this, or do you want was this only for myself? Do you want to say something? You can unmute yourself if you want.
Yeah, no, I thought I was talking to everybody. It was just to you. Sorry.
Okay, that was only to me. Okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, this is so it was a personal question. He was talking about how they have implemented OBM in their organization. Warner is one of our friends and colleagues who has been implementing OBM in his organization on a higher level. And honestly, I've worked with him and his organization for a while, and that's also how I got to know Robert and Joost and the Trigono organization and OBM Dynamics. And now it has been a pleasure actually to work with you and to see how you have implemented it in your organization. And that was for me a trigger. That was the trigger for me to actually also go and look a little bit more into organizational behavior management. And of course, my focus area is occupational health and safety, environment and quality. And I think this really works very well in the space that we're working in. And I see a few colleagues. I see Mohammed Kashif, I see Adnan, I see other people that actually or work with me now or have worked with me in the past. So it's really great that you guys are here, and I think that all of us can learn a lot from this. Next question: why does behavior, not rules, determine safety outcomes? And how to shift from compliance monitoring to behavior influence?
Well,
Robert?
again, the rules are antecedents, so they trigger the behavior, but they do not cause the behavior. And how do you shift from compliance monitoring and looking for errors into behavioral influence and become servant leader? It's that you have to focus on what is it that I want to see more of, and how do we gonna get that? So as a leader, how can we be more supportive to our people that we lead? And how can we create this environment in which people can thrive? And there is a technical component. So people need the right instruments to do their job. They need to have the right procedures and rules. They need to have the right equipment, but they also need the proper leadership.
Yeah.
So it's a leadership matter that if you want to shift from compliance monitoring to behavioral influence, then you have to work with leaders in order to change their perception of performance.
Great, thank you for that answer. Third question: how can leaders set the behavioral benchmark through their own actions?
Yeah, that's a good question. The idea is that a very tough rule to accept for most people is that you get what you reinforce. So that means that the behaviors that you will see are somehow reinforced, intentionally or unintentionally. And one of the factors in that reinforcement process is the leadership behavior through their own actions. So if a leader only shows up on the shop floor when there's a problem and he starts punishing people, then their behavior lowers the bar in terms of performance and engagement and employee happiness. So if the leader changes his or her perspective on what they want from the people that they lead, things will change. So you have to look for what is it that I want to see more of.
That's very well said, and I really love that statement. You get what you reinforce, and it's really something that it might not immediately land while you hear it, right? Like you get what you reinforce, even if you do that on purpose or unpurposely. So that's really a great statement. And if you think of it from an OBM perspective, you understand that it is literally true. So it's really well said, Robert. Thank you for that. Question number 4: what is the systematic OBM approach to identifying critical safety behaviors, measuring them and improving them consistently?
Well, the idea is that if you want to use organizational behavior management framework as an approach to fix organizational issues related to behavior, then there is a protocol, the 7-step protocol for it. And the first step in the 7-step protocol is to identify these behavior that creates the problem. So we call that problem behavior. So you have to zoom in on a production process or on a delivery process or on a design process or whatever, or on a value stream. You have to zoom in to get to the action that actually creates the problem. So you have to identify that, and then you have to analyze that. We use the ABC model for analyzing techniques.
Yeah.
And once you have identified the behavior, then you can also measure how often does that occur. how many results are well, how many results are poor. And each result is the result of a behavior. So you also can have an idea of how many times very specific behaviors occur, problem behaviors or desired behaviors. So you can measure those. And then, of course, the improvement is about reinforcement for the desired behaviors.
Mhm.
So it's a leadership matter because usually leadership applies consequences to performance.
Yeah. Thank you for that as well. The last question that we have, what are practical tools you can implement immediately to influence behavior and build a safety culture where people choose to work safely?
Well, the practical tool is that you get familiar with the ABC model. And once you understand the ABC model and those 4 types of consequences, then you can easily do something that we call an ABC analysis. And the ABC analysis basically is a 2-step approach. The first step is that you charter the environment, so you identify antecedents that may trigger a problem behavior, for instance. And then you try to find out, okay, what happens to a person that emits this problem behavior in terms of consequences? What happens to this person? And why do we see those behaviors? And then you have to analyze the consequences themselves in order to find the culprit, to find the reinforcing factor that creates this and maintains this problem behavior. And once you have done the analysis, then you can come up and design an intervention that actually deals with the problem.
Yeah.
And preferably not by punishment, but simply by reinforcing the desired behavior more often.
Yeah.
So then the desired behavior becomes more interesting to be doing instead of the problem behavior. And then the behaviors will basically exchange. One dies out, becomes extinct, and the other one starts to thrive and becomes emitted more often simply because they get recognition for it, or they get attention for it, or they get the things that they want from it.
Yeah.
And that could be safer behavior.
Yeah. And these questions were actually to trigger the attendees to ask questions as well. I didn't see any questions in the chat. Is there anybody who wants to ask a question around the subject of today? If you want to ask something, you can unmute yourself and just ask. And if you don't want, you can, of course, also write it and we can look into if you know the answer. And otherwise, get back to you at a later stage with the answer, if assuming that we don't know. But
Good evening, Amador.
good evening. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you so very much. Not a question though, but an appreciation note for you and Robert. It really kind of gave me another perspective of looking at things because I have been in EHS domain for almost 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Honestly, the perspective of looking at antecedents, I don't really know yet the pronunciation, but I'll definitely learn that. But it was really useful. Thank you so very much.
You're most
Okay,
welcome.
Mohammed. It's our pleasure. So, and to help you a little bit, if you want to understand what an antecedent is, that is anything that is around you as a person before you act. So before you do something. So, for instance, if you enter a room, for instance, because you want to work there, anything that is in the room is an antecedent. So your desk is an antecedent, and your chair is an antecedent. The lights that you have are antecedents. The computer may be antecedent. And the idea is like this. There may be a chair in the room. The chair basically invites you to go and sit on the chair. But there is no cause-effect relationship that because there is a chair that you will sit on the chair. If there is a computer in the room, it invites you basically to use the computer. But maybe you don't want to use the computer because you want to have a phone call. and you don't need a computer. So the fact that the antecedent is present will not guarantee that you will use it. And the same applies for rules and regulations. The fact that people have rules, there is no guarantee that they always will follow the rule. If that were true, then behavioral change would very simply be change the rules and then everything would be fine. But what we see in real life is that even if we have good rules, we have good instruments, we have all kinds of signs and warning signs and all kinds of management instruments, still people try to deviate from the rule, try to do it a little bit differently. So that's a motivational issue. They choose to do something different. And because that is a choice of the performer, you have to understand why they choose it like that. And then your answer will not be in the antecedent, but your answer is always in the consequence.
Yeah, very well explained. Thank you so very much, Robert.
You're welcome, Mohammed.
Can we also somehow get access to these slides?
Yeah, that's on. That's for Amador to answer.
We can share the slides with you. I will share a PDF file. Of course, I know Mohammed personally, and Adnan as well. So we'll make a PDF file and we'll send it to you.
All
Thank you
right.
so very much.
And in order also to look to the time, and I see people drop off slowly, we just
Yeah.
wanted to have your feedback. If you can again, please join Slido and answer the question: what would you like to see next? Would you like to see an OBM foundation course, or would you, for example, see an online masterclass, something like this, but then a little bit more detailed, sorry. Or do you want to get into more the 3 pitfalls workshop, where we really get into details to understand the pitfalls that managers or leaders and people in general fall into? Or do you want to see another free webinar, or of course all of the above? So I see some people, they immediately okay, OBM foundation course, all of the above, online masterclass. Really appreciate it from all of you. Unfortunately, I think there are only 3 attendees remaining, and so
Yeah.
it really says what you guys want. So I have a surprise, and that is that we are going to have on the 15th of January 2026, we'll have another free Zoom webinar. I actually already informed you about it at the start. Why do more rules not per definition improve behavior on the work floor? And then there will be a Zoom online masterclass on the 21st of January. Why your OBM program will positively influence the safety culture. And then,
maybe those will be Microsoft Teams webinars.
no,
instead.
not maybe. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. No, yeah, it will team. Yeah, you're 100% correct. We'll change that. That was very good
Yeah.
advice from Adnan in the beginning, and also yourself, Robert. So yeah, we'll do that. And then we of course will also we'll have in Amsterdam, we'll have a foundation course, which is a live course or a masterclass and or a foundation course. We still are in the process of finalizing that. And then between 6 to 10 April will be in Dubai. And there is a possibility that we might travel to Saudi as well. So Adnan, maybe we'll see you there. I would really like to see you. It will be then in Dammam, most probably, or Riyadh. I'm not sure 100% yet. But we will be going definitely to Dubai during that period. So we look forward to see you. So just follow our social medias, and we'll stay in touch. And I look forward to see you the next time again. I really thank you for we really thank you for your time and your attention and your inputs as well. Adnan in the beginning, I really appreciated. Mohammed Kashif, thank you so much that you joined today. It's really a pleasure to have you, and really respect. Robert, I thank you a lot for all the input that you did. SB, also thank you so much that you were there. It's really a pleasure. Robert, thank you so much that you also put all
Yeah.
this effort in making the slides, in supporting me to have this, to put this all together and to deliver this nice presentation to people. So look forward to continue working with you, and now see you all next time.
Yes, it was a pleasure being here, and I look forward to meeting these people in real life one day.
Thank you so much, and
Have a good evening. Have a good night.
take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. See you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Salam.